This is Into Healing, and I'm your host, Mira Adura. Today's Into Healing guest is Curtrice Goddard. Curtrice is a spiritual mentor, a personal transformation guide, and founder of Transcendent Social Justice. In our conversation, Curtrice shares how physical illness initiated her own journey of self-discovery, and how seeing racism as a great teacher and doing our own inner work is the most profound step towards social justice. I hope this heartfelt conversation lights you up as it did for me. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us for more transformational healing stories.
Curtrice, I'm just so honored to have you here. The first time I heard you speak, my whole body lit up, and I just knew you were the voice that we all needed to hear. So I'm just so grateful that you're here.
Thank you. I'm so honored. It is a true honor to be here at this time, and I feel like so many collaborations is with Soul Family now, and that's what this feels like. So thank you, sister. Thank you.
Yeah. So how has your healing journey been like? And I know that's a big question.
Yeah, it is. It's like so many things come up. For me, it started through the physical body. For me, I had a diagnosis when I was, I believe, 32 of having fibroids, and they offered the solution to that was to get a hysterectomy, and that felt very intense for me. And I somehow, some information came in. I don't even remember how this happened, but something with raw food was happening in Detroit, where I was born, where I'm from. And I ended up connecting with a raw chef there and going vegan and eating raw foods and to heal the fibroids. That was the intention. And that started my physical healing journey. But of course, changing my diet, lifestyle, what I was putting in my body started to awaken all my senses, like my intuition, my third eye, like these deeper questions were coming up, and I was beginning to shift and see life differently. So just going through that, healing the body with food also awakened my consciousness. It started to expand. So that's basically where it started, and it was really profound. And within that, which is what led me to who I am today, I was finding a lot of the circumstances and suffering and the history of my family and my people. I was starting to see like, well, this is very valuable information, valuable information that heals, that cut cords and chains to oppression and just that personal suffering that one may feel. And I found out that I'm actually a more empowered human being, right? And there's more I can do when I feel better on a mind, body, spirit, and mental level.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Very powerful. So
Yeah.
your self-image changed over the years. How did that change happen, or how was that like?
Well, my self-image, as I started to develop more in the spiritual arts and consciousness, I went into what I call self-realization, which is that I'm a part of Source, that I am an aspect of the Creator, and I am a part of all and everyone. And that changed everything. You could never be oppressed within when you know that. But you can always have, life is, the human conditioning includes suffering, right? That's part of it. Well, pain, I don't know. Suffering could be optional in certain ways. But for me, when I learned that, I was like, well, there's nothing I cannot move through or innovate on or change or impact, right? And that came from knowing who I truly am. I am not just my race. I'm not just my gender. I am not just my beliefs in the boxes that I check. I am something more illuminated and way more powerful than that.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes, we all are. Yes.
How did you end up working in social justice and transformation?
Interesting. 2020, right? Things became very intense around the pandemic, and when George Floyd, the whole blow up of that, and it just seems like racial injustice was coming up through the ground. It was time for us to collectively look at it. It was time to stop putting lipstick on sick bodies, right? That's what I feel like. It's just been a covering up over all these years and decades. And when that started to come up, I was having a hard time just within my own personal life trying to manage my reality opposed to what was happening, the history and all these things where I was feeling really raw and tender. But a lot of people were like looking to me as a woman of consciousness of, how would you speak to this? You know, I was just receiving all these invitations. And I got really quiet, and I was like, is this my path, right? I've not necessarily studied social justice, and I got the clear download, like, this is absolutely your path, because the path is about oneness. The path is about consciousness, and you can influence and help cultivate a new way of moving through this in a way that it actually heals, transforms, and transmutes. And so that's how I started, just, people reaching out to me, honestly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how sometimes the universe gives you what you need, right?
Yeah.
What constructs and conditioning of racism are you most passionate about dissolving in American culture and society?
Separation consciousness. Separation consciousness. In my meditation, as I was preparing for this was last night, I had a vision of a little girl in a white body, and I'll use white people or people in white bodies, and I do that to try and lodge to start to change the way we see each other, like that. It was a person in a black body, right? So that we understand that we're all humans, right? Sometimes saying white people, black people, Asian people, that separation consciousness is just so loud. And when I speak in that, the psychology of that makes people go, what does she mean somebody in a white body? Like, oh, because that's a human, right? That feels really important to be just introduced into the conversation, into our psyches more. So back to this meditation, seeing this little white girl in my vision, and like a 4-year-old. And I was thinking of how her being here, she has no idea what society she's in. She has no idea what positioning, what has happened, what's come before her. So there's a deep level of innocence there. And when we realize that we were all born in a society that we did not create, and we woke up in these positions, in these constructs, in these families with this history, if we understand and hold each other, like I too woke up here like you did, and I can then have that level of compassion and empathy, and then approach people, white people specifically, or because that's the lane that I'm deeply feeling passionate about, then the frequency of what I'm sharing, they can feel the oneness, that I know that this is about us talking about this racial injustice. This is us looking at colonial mindset together. I'm not necessarily separating myself and saying, let's look at these things. I'm saying, let's look at it together. You become an invitation. People can hear you. You are together. And then we can make change, right? Without that, we will continue to recycle the same patterns where we're still separate. And in that separation, I'm going to fight and defend. It's almost like a natural response, right? And the attack frequency is a lot of times in what we call facts and truth. And so we can shift the energy behind how we're holding each other. I believe you become an invitation, and people become inspired to join you and look at their own hand in this and what they can do on a global level as well.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Separation consciousness.
Why is racism so hard to talk about?
It is not for me. I actually enjoy it a lot because it feels very purposeful for me. And just even if you take racism out, I believe that my life here is about living in the light. So I want to turn the lights on, right? And that's not always easy. I think that most people don't know. It's hard to talk about because people feel a lot of fear. They don't have the courage to do that, and have not developed the capacity to look at their own shadow. Right. And so you can look at this in a very micro level, look at it in your own relationships, how you relate to your parents, your partners. You know, what happens when your partner says something other than you're amazing? What comes up for you? Right? Are you able to be in that? Are you able to listen? Are you able to look at it and receive that level of criticism and say, how can I be coming to this awareness and see how this is affecting you? And can I change that and still know that I am still wonderful no matter what, right? Like, my transgressions does not make me an evil or bad person, right? It's a part of, I always say I live by do no harm, but I do harm. I'm a human being. You know, I may do something that harms you in the way I didn't respond, or it could be minute, it could be massive, but that is, I don't need to be condemned for that. And because we have a condemning culture, I believe that's why it's hard to talk about it. Like, I don't want to mess up, right? I don't want to be attacked, and I really don't want to face myself. I really don't want to face myself.
Yeah, we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
What is racism here to teach us?
That is a question that I share every time I speak. I invite people to take that with them. What is it here to teach you? Why does it exist? I'm of the belief that everything that we're experiencing in this lifetime is here to help us evolve as souls. So for me, it leads us into our own personal evolution, which will create a global shift, right? A global evolution. I believe it's here to teach us unconditional love. You know, that is the most, and I feel like teary around that. Because all that you have to remove in order to move into that space is so holy, it is so powerful, and it's the truth of who we are. And so racism comes in so hot. It comes in so abrupt. It's a burning sensation. You know, like, I've been in some really intense conversations. And when you can look at that and be with people in this conversation, people with the intention to heal and move past and bring balance and atone and be in deep, like, compassion with each other, you find God there, you know? And I believe that's what it's here to teach. And how many people are avoiding that level of vulnerability and compassion. So it's powerful being here. I would not let it be here in vain. Like, I'm there. I will make sure in my lifetime that I put some energy into it that helps to uplift the planet and shift things. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Why is it in our lineage? What does it come to teach us about ourselves? What are the triggers or the desire to avoid the sacred karma bring up for people?
Yeah. And I think that the answer to that will be different for everyone. So I definitely like to pose that question. Why is it in your lineage? I feel with racism between, like, anti-Blackness, the relationship between Black and white people, like, I believe that we've chosen these bodies, right? So if you woke up and you're in a white body, like, what is your invitation? Like, you didn't come here to be blamed or defeated. You came here to change the game. You came here to find your power within this. You came here to look at whether this system the way it is it working for you? Do you secretly want it to keep working for you? Do you have fear around that? Like, it's about taking off that mask. And I believe that, and even for myself, I feel that I've chosen, and this is all my own spiritual beliefs, I've chosen to be a Black woman at this time on this planet, right? And I chose that because at the seed of my soul is empowerment. I know that I can take something that's really dark and painful and move that through my heart and create gold in that level of alchemy. That's why I've come here, right? Yes. I've come here to love. I've come here to lead. I didn't come here to just regurgitate oppression and fights and wars. Like, I came here to innovate, to show the glory of God through my life. Yeah.
You speak about the power of being in your skin for both people of color and white people. What is the initiation you speak of?
You have a white body. What did you come here to do? And I believe that it's a powerful initiation and a powerful invitation. One thing that came very clear to me in my life is that I have a lot of relationships with people in white bodies, right? And I'm like deep in that culture, through spirituality and consciousness and wellness, right? Which is dominated by white culture. And so I used to think that that's what it was, right? I'm here studying. This is just my family. This is what I'm doing. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a naturopath. I'm doing all these different things. And I just happen to be the only Black person there. But this is a consciousness meeting, right? And so it's interesting because when I look at having that relationship, it has helped me to have I'm seeing deeper into white culture and the constructs of the mentality of the culture. The things that white people don't want to look at in the racial injustice conversation are also the way they are performing in their own lives. Like the not speaking up, like for my friends, like the things that has hurt them, the things that they have not said about their fathers and grandfathers. So as they move through empowering themselves in their own life, then they become people that are ready to walk into the fire of racial injustice. But when you look at the culture, it's a very hush-hush culture. Don't speak. It looks nice, but what's behind that? And so now we're asking people who is used to this type of culture to now stand up brazen. And it doesn't work like that. They have to move through deep healing. Because for me, when you look at Black and brown people, our cultures are different, right? Like we're louder. You can say what you want. Everybody's like, whatever. There's a freedom in that. There's a freedom to beauty and a freedom in that where there's a more of a raw face being shown. And it's a difference in the culture. So I love to share that when I have these different classes, look how at our differences in our culture and the way we approach things. And this is an invitation for you to not only show up for racial injustice, but for your own justice in your house with your husband, your fathers, your grandfathers, and whomever else has made transgressions against you. It's time to use your voice, break down the patriarchy, which is completely connected to racial injustice and white supremacy. So it's a deep dive, and it's time.
Yeah, it is time.
It is time.
So do you feel it's possible for white people to heal?
Yes, but are we talking about white people healing? And how dare you? How dare you say they need anything, right? Or do privileged people need healing? But the truth is they do. And the truth is, it's a privilege of economic status. There's a privilege of mental conditioning, of safety, right, that we all have. We all have. That's their privilege to be human and be safe, which is not a privilege. That's a right. That's a basic human right. However, we all have this conditioning within us. I was thinking about this very aspect of how Jesus, God, the Messiah, no matter what religion you're in, Jesus is the biggest rock star in the world. And he was seeded into our consciousness as a white man. So subconsciously, if God is white, everything that is white is good, right? That is the deepest form of white supremacy that you could ever see. And it's so subtle. We ate that so subtly, even though...
Which is crazy.
It's crazy.
He's not white.
But if you learn that, but what have you been seeing all of your life, through your most impressionable years? The white man is God. And so within that, when I see a white man, then I already know that either this is somebody that's safe, or this is somebody I should save and make sure is okay. There's a different movement. And we do this unconsciously. And this is all of us. This is all of us. If there's a Black woman laying on the ground and a white woman, you're going to veer towards the white woman, not because you're a horrible person, because you are conditioned. You are conditioned. And we have to have some level of understanding of that. This is not about people. There are horrible people in the world, but most people are just under conditioning, racial conditioning. I remember I was at in Malibu, I was at a coffee shop, and it was a white man behind me, and there's other people in there. But the barista just instantly, what up, boss? Hey, it was just like there's a different draw than a female or even a person of color. It's not a horrible person, but his conditioning is let me make sure I take care of this person. And can we just be kind of honest about that? Can we look at that? And it's not even against white men. Like, again, these white men that are here now listening to this, they didn't set that up. They were born into this. We have to understand that conditioning is within us. I also want to share a talk to a friend that I used to work with years ago. And I was asking her about all these people. Where is such and such? Where? It was like 5 different people in white bodies that no longer work there for like white collar crimes, right? Just thieveries, embezzling money, all these things. And I'm like, when you think of criminals, you don't think of white people. But how is that? And the way she said, and she wasn't saying this, we weren't talking about racial justice at all, but yeah, he just stopped coming to work. Oh, we never heard from such and such again. Like, it's very quiet. And then you go to the media and it's like, oh, these black and brown people killing each other. They're doing all these things. And it's like, or these are the people taking this, and not that that's not happening, right? However, is the narrative balanced? Is it honest? No. Is it true? Right? It's
Absolutely
not. And when you have a lot of white friends or you in culture and you have like real relationships, not water cooler talk, then you come to find out who's on drugs, who does drugs, who's been doing them all their lives, and who we think in our mind are the people that are doing drugs. And I feel this is something that I get really passionate about, that piece, because I don't like people messing with my consciousness. I don't like you feeding my mind things that are not bringing harmony and justice to this world. So my own internal racism, right? My own conditioning, I see this within myself, or I have seen it over the years. I remember I lived in Detroit. I had a loft downtown, and I was coming home, and I seen a group of white guys by their car, and they looked like the car had broken down, and I was going to stop to see if they wanted to use my cell phone. And then I was about to stop. I was like, no, they're guys. It's late. Let them do that. But I had the impulse to stop. And I was like, would I have done that if that was a group of black guys?
Oof.
Right? Even though I've not even grown up in the hood, I've not had personal transgressions, but I still had this conditioning, right? There was a different level of, let me see if they're okay, right? And so, So, and I remember having that thought. I knew then, I think I was about 22. I was like, okay, something's off and you should stop watching the news. And so, but I did start watching the news, noticing in Detroit, whenever there was something happening and I could tell when a white person had committed the crime, stole the car, whatever, because they would never show the face. They'd be like, there was a man with a red shirt at the gas station. And I was like, And then that's when I stopped watching TV way back then.
Yeah.
So a lot of freeing my consciousness, because I'm like, it's giving me the narrative,
I mean, I can relate to that in one way, because the way Arabs are portrayed, and we're always the terrorists, and we're always dehumanized. And so I can totally connect to that.
Yeah. And when you say that, I was thinking a post that I'm working on, I was going to post on Facebook, and it said, you think that they're Muslims, but they're human. And you think that they're Arabic, but they're humans. And it's so important that that's how we see people, right? Like, your God differentiates what?
Yeah. And people, I think there's just a lack of education. Like, people don't even know that Arabs are both Christians, Jews, and Muslims.
Really? That? Yeah. That.
And all we've just been brainwashed.
And all those are systems, too. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but at the core of it, it's a human being. It's a human being. And it is interesting how they depict, each culture. And it's one thing to have these things that are cultural norms with each ethnicity, but there is an intentional driven narrative there. And that is, like, even when you share that, I always like to bring in that if people feel like, okay, these people are terrorists, this is difficult to do, but we have to be in a position to teach and not offense, because we understand that we are all in a society with the powers to be way beyond what we're doing at this, communal level, that are inserting these thoughts into people's heads. So how can you shift things if you haven't done enough healing within yourself to be able to hold space to teach at Whole Foods in the parking lot, to hear somebody say that, and then be able to give them new information and new invitations? That's when we really move to change. And I'm not saying that that's easy, but that is the work.
Yeah.
Because to just be like, oh, how dare you, so racist, and da-da-da-da-da. Like, I have said to people that I love, like, that's very racist. Like, what you're saying, how you're thinking, that it's not really making sense. What you're saying, did you hear what you said? And they're like, I hadn't thought about it. But because I have a safe space, now we can unwind it. And that's important. It's not going to help to let me retract all my energy from you, and you take your racism and you move over there. So that means when I'm gone, then my grandkids are still going to have these conversations.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and it's not easy. Like, I cry so much being back home in Detroit. There's so many triggers. They're like sitting on the corners. There's so much unprocessed racial tension there in that particular city. And just within Michigan, it's not, I just want to make sure I keep saying, like, it's not about ease, but it's about me moving to the higher perspective of why I'm here and what I can do to create change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before meeting you, I had never heard anybody speak to the racial injustice, anti-racism conversation from a place of power, consciousness, and healing. And you are all that. I'm curious how you speak raw and clear truth on sensitive matters when the truth in our current culture is often so debated and often painful. How do you know when something is true?
When something is true for me, I can feel it. My body feels light. There's no tension. And I'm also finding when I'm in my truth, that even if someone doesn't agree with me, they don't feel attacked. Right? And I found, speaking about racism, and this has also been my intention, has only brought me closer to people, to strangers, to everybody. Like, it is actually shown me the opposite of what I see in the world. Someone asked me, well, what do you do when you meet white rage? And I have not encountered white rage. However, if I were to, I wouldn't respond to it. Because at this point, it's about a level of consciousness, right? We're not, I know who I am, and this is my ode to people of color and people who have dealt with oppression and still is. That inner work that we do within our consciousness and our emotional states and our healing should take precedence. Because it is how you move through this world and impact and influence, and at the very least, be a person who can have a racial slur come at them and be full peace. Like, really? Right? Like, at this point, it's like, are you really? I can see you are in so much fear. Pain and fear. I got chills when I said that. Yeah. And that's a game changer. That's changing. That's turning the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I've been seeing that all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just how much pain there is in so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you've had life hard, and I would say, like, yeah, like Palestine and Black people here, like, there's a level of stress in the field that is, I don't think, unless you walk in those shoes, you could ever really connect into and experience. And that is why I'm so passionate about personal development and consciousness, right? And self-actualization, because you can only transcend it from within in order to impact what is around you and to keep yourself safe, and at the very least and the most, having a life that is quality and peaceful. Let no one have your peace. Always know who you are. Know your power. Stay in love. guard your consciousness, guard your heart, with love. Don't always give your energy to those small, dark, unconscious energies that are out there in the world. Yeah.
What does your anti-racism and social justice work have in common with, say, a more typical HR-focused D&I initiative? What is different about your approach? Because we hear about that all day. So I'm like, I just want to get that out there.
Interesting. Very interesting. Mine is rooted in consciousness as the foundation, knowing who you are at a level of consciousness before you move into your identities makes all the difference. It gives us all a seat at the table. We're all human. Can we start here? Deep breath, right? I know who I am. I know I'm a part of all and everything. And so for so long, this to me was considered spirituality. But this has to drip into mainstream at this point. Like when you see things happening in this world, these are people that are completely tuned out from who they truly are, from their humanity, from their heart, right? From their connection to oneness, to all that there is. It's time to start educating the mainstream instead of continuing like, this is my spiritual practice. No, do you know that you are also a human being, that we're a part of one family? And that doesn't mean that we get to hold hands and just run off into the unity garden, because that's not what's happening. But we get to be more empowered, and we can start to dissolve separation consciousness within us. So mine is rooted in consciousness, right? Is rooted in self-actualization, is rooted in that level of knowing and empowerment. I am working on a curriculum for a company now, and when I got to, they sent over some bullet points, and one was about microaggressions. And I was like, that's just racism. Like, I mean, that's the terms that you're using. It's just like, you think I want chicken. Like, it's just, that's what it is. I like to call it, because I'm more of a, that's just how I roll. And my level of transparency in the world and having hard conversations, whether that's in my personal life or in this, more global conversation, that's a gift to people. Being transparent and direct and clear. You're hurting me. That sounds racist to me. That doesn't feel honoring at all. To me is a gift to you, right? And, and being able to speak and say these things without harboring like hate and rage within, to me, that allows for some room for things to move and shift.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of doing the work yourself to be able to do that.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I notice when you can articulate yourself and have your emotions at a place where you can actually speak up and make, like even start initiatives and things like that, you feel more empowered and you actually get things done. But if I just go into an emotional rant about something, I'm more likely to be discounted than actually heard.
Yeah.
Right? And,
of course.
Yeah.
You speak about consciousness and transcendent consciousness. What do you mean when you say that, and how are they different?
So transcendence, consciousness, of course, is our consciousness, right? Of that I call it another level of our intelligence, right? Consciousness is always moving through us, and being in the energy of developing our consciousness and being in this transcendent nature of knowing we are more than our mind and our bodies. We're more than our mind and our bodies. We're more than our mind and our bodies, right? I just bring people that people are like, what am I? You are. And like, just keep meditating. I got that from Sadhguru, the guru from Isha Foundation. And that was also something that changed my life. I'm more than my mind and my body. So understanding that I am also consciousness, right? And transcendent, being in a transcendent space is knowing that you are part of something beyond the body. That there's a consciousness and intelligence weaving all of life together, right? Making sure the birds eat, the sun coming up, that we, with all our full arrogance and worry, are not making the sun come up every day, right? And so there's a divine intelligence and bringing that into these sensitive matters in the world feels paramount, because without that, we are only beliefs, intellect, right? Narratives. Yeah. And we're just going and we're hitting these walls, and it's very unproductive. And it keeps us separating. So many people, I have people say, I don't really tune into social justice. It doesn't, it feels horrible. And these are people who want to see change, but it's not happening in a way that feels productive for them, right? And that's something to look at. And I believe the transcendent nature of knowing that you are more than just your mind and your body, your ideas, your beliefs, your religions, and your genders, right? That it's time to start to elevate and ask these bigger questions and come to do your own work of personal evolution before you come to the table and talk to me about this, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wish we could know who's on their way.
Yeah, I believe a lot of people are, even if they don't understand some of the terms and lingo, or they don't choose, a route, but having some level of awareness that we are all connected, and that this is, especially racism in our society, this is a community project of all humans, of all humans. No one should be suffering on this earth, not with the level of technology and information and consciousness that is available to act barbaric, to be in the old world, right, when they did not have access to this. It makes no sense at all. And we are not evolving. Yeah. I think Jay-Z said, even grass grow. We must evolve, right? Yeah.
It does feel like old world is dying right now.
Yes, and that dying is scary, right? Because so much pain is coming up as a result of that, but it's definitely crumbling. Yeah.
I know this touches on what you've already mentioned a little bit, but you've said to me the deepest message is that our own personal consciousness revolution is the game changer.
It is. More people taking care of themselves, more people developing themselves, healing, working with their own shadows. It's interesting, the more I do this work, the deeper I move into it, I see how anyone who's choosing it and moving into this conversation has to look at their own lives, who they are with their children, how they handle emotions and transgressions, right? It's so important. And so if you choose your own personal evolution as your journey, you're automatically healing racism in our world. It's automatic.
So true.
Yeah.
So I was raised in victim consciousness. I grew up in wars. My mother, grandmother were taken off their land. How do we transcend personal suffering and go beyond our circumstances? Can we heal when we're still being traumatized?
You must. This is your life. This is your time, right? No matter what is happening outside of us, our ability to cultivate peace and empowerment, that is a birthright, and that is powerful. And I know in my own life, I remember thinking, I don't want to learn this lesson, that I can have challenges and pain and still have a sense of peace within myself. When I learned that, I was fired from my job and on unemployment and government assistance and in court with a pro bono lawyer. It was a very dark and scary time. I had a burlap bag full of brown rice. That's all I had to eat. And it was through that year that I learned that my freedom was within me and that I can find joy no matter what. And so you must do that. That is your birthright. That is how powerful you are, that nobody can really chain and trap you, right? Because even now, when I look at even the trauma within my community, no matter how many doors open up, there's going to be a great amount of us that never walk through them because the chains are within the seeds that are in their mind and their identity. And so you can't just go in the world and start initiatives and give grants and do all these things without the people healing and developing and changing the identity that has been given, right? That has also been orchestrated, like when I'm back home with my mom right now, after coming home from Tulum, I think I told you that, and just being in the neighborhood, just looking at how it's set up, when we don't own anything and there's liquor stores everywhere. And it's just like, when you go right out to the suburbs, it's like, why is this different here? Why is there a 7-Eleven here instead of 6 liquor stores within 3 blocks, right? We don't own those, right? So what is the setup there? What is being allowed here? And also, one of the biggest traumas I feel in Black culture is just not feeling empowered. It doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter if I call, right? I can barely take back an outfit I don't want without feeling like a thief, let alone call and make mandates in my neighborhood. And so all of this deep healing and excavating of this narrative of our power and our beauty and our true ancestry, which, we're not only strong because we've survived slavery, we come from warriors, right? So there's a level of intuition and strength and wisdom, from the land that is still in our blood as well. But that must be amplified. That needs to be cultivated. That is how you take your power back. Right? No matter what someone else says or does in your life, you can find joy. I even think about and this is something that's really been heavy on my heart, is that I'm okay, our economic standing, how do we change this? It's going to take generations for us to actually have a significant economic standing in this world. And when I think about that journey, I'm but now we can find health and happiness and joy and community and have a better quality of life, less mental illness, less physical illness. That too is valuable. That too is wealth. I know that deeply, right? I know that level of wealth. So that is so important for us to be able to cultivate these internal, I'm hearing a Bible verse, and it's when Jesus said, after coming out of the forest for 40 days, they said the devil came to him, the temptation, and said, asked him to do magic or turn something into something. I'm sorry, I'm butchering it. But he said, you cannot live by bread alone. Mm-hmm. And that is the same thing. Everything is not only money. Our value is in our consciousness and being able to live peaceful lives. That's what I want for my mother, for her every day, for her to feel honored, for her to feel respected, and for her to have the things that she needs to flourish as a human being, right? And for her to have a identity about herself that is healthy, an image that is one of an honorable human being. That is way more valuable than millions of dollars, right? Right, because how many people do I know that do have millions of dollars that are not necessarily wealthy or happy? And so transcending our personal circumstances, it is a must. You must do that. If you're a human being, you are that powerful, and you must do that. You must find your joy. You must cultivate it. Yeah.
When you say you help people transcend limitations, what does that mean on the literal everyday level? What does transcending limitations look like?
Transcending limitations, what I do as a practitioner is I give people tools and resources to help them create an environment that they can do the internal healing work and start to expand their consciousness and heal their traumas and their self-image, right? So that looks like a whole, different processes of mindset work, of emotional healing. There's journaling, there's foundational clean eating diets, things to get all the things that are in your environment and lifestyle and choices that are actually taking away and helping to support a lot of the white supremacist systems. You know, like I said about the liquor stores, like those are things, like the liquor stores are there. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about how that got there, but let's also talk about how you don't walk in there. Right? Let's talk about different ways that you ease your pain, the different ways that you heal this post-slavery trauma and what life is walking on this earth at this time. How do you become healthier? And so I write different prescriptions, so to speak, and different processes to help people create that, which is everything that I've done over the last 15, 20 years of my own life, right? Getting up, being delivered about my day, my time, my mind. I gatekeep all of it. It's called gatekeeping my legacy, right? You know, not eating sugar. Like there's so many things that you don't realize is keeping you from getting ahead in life, right? So we have the circumstance. We know what it is. We know what it has been, but it can be different when we start to transcend the way things are. And so, yeah, you have to create that environment for yourself through your eating, through your mindset, through what you're ingesting on all levels, right?
Media, et cetera.
Media, all of it. You got to be a gatekeeper. You can't just wake up and roll out of bed, live on social apps, and process food and then wonder why. You're right. Like you have to come back in that sacred warrior mode, and that means taking care of yourself. Just meditation. You know, I always say wellness is a liberation tool. Smoothies, those are liberation tools. Right? It's not just, you know, blind people in yoga pants that should have a green smoothie. Like, who made up these narratives? Like, it's like we're in some kind of simulation game. It's weird, right? Everybody. And that's making me think when I first started going into the healing arts and people would say, oh, like, or you want to be a white girl or you're acting white. And I'm like, you know, there's a lot not known in that. But when I looked at what my life was encompassed of, it was wellness. It was sleep. It was, you know, it was like all these things that for some reason the narrative that people like me don't get to do. I don't get to go to yoga and eat arugula and go to sleep because my skin is dark.
You know, it's so weird. I feel in the global north, it's like wellness has been kind of co-opted and commercialized and sold to us because the global south has so many healing practices and does so many of these things just naturally as part of their cultures, you know?
Right.
But in the global north, it's like it has been co-opted by whiteness and it makes, but if you're not white, it's like not for you. But the whole global south that is not white,
that is natural.
That is natural for them, you know?
Yes.
Like India, perfect example, right?
Right.
Like we've kind of taken these things and we've made them, you know, commercialized them, commoditized them for the global north.
Yes.
Like I remember a teacher even saying, like, what are these props? Like, what are these props? Like, we don't have these props. You just do yoga anywhere. What are all these things?
Right. Where you know?
We turned it in capitalism as a way of taking over wellness and, you know, targeting a certain group of people and co-opting it.
As you're saying that, now I see. Thank you. Just really opened that up because now I see, well, it would be like dominated by white culture because it's about money. So it's like, if I want to sell you $200 yoga pants, then I need to put people in it in these commercials that can actually buy it and who would value it, right? Like not everybody's value is to go to yoga, you know, like that's because they believe that that's not what you should value, right? So it's, that's deep. Actually, when you said that, I was just seeing like it is about capitalism and it's about where I can make money off of that, who would buy that at this price point.
And people of color, you know,
yeah,
it's like whiteness is going to buy it.
Right. And they also, as always said, I think it's Maslow's hierarchy, is it? And I've been looking at that and how it, you know, how it goes, like you need these basic needs met, and in transcendent social justice, for me, self-realization is the basic need.
So what do you mean by that?
So self-realization is us moving into realizing the true self, right? The greater definition of the self, like beyond our mind and our body. And that is so important. Like I said about Maslow's hierarchy, you know, this needs to be the foundation, where the hierarchy used to be food and shelter, and then self-actualization or realization is at the top, right? At the transcendence is the top. But I've learned through my own walk that that must be the foundation. Even in most racial initiatives, you know, growing up in Detroit, there are so many soup kitchens, there are so many well-intended initiatives, but without developing the people, how will you ever really create a change, right? And it also has made me think that a change is not what's profitable. Do we really want these people empowered? Do we really want them self-realized? Do we really want them in their courage? Like, what does that do to the system and to our society? And so it's very powerful work. And for years, I used to have a fear of speaking up to that, because I'm like, I feel unstoppable. Do you want millions of people who look like me to be unstoppable? Yeah. The work is important.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I do want you to be unstoppable.
Yeah, and I am.
Yes. I mean, you and people like you, absolutely.
Every human being.
Human
being. That leads me to thinking about white culture, white people, too. We don't want, they need to be unstoppable too.
Totally.
But we all need to be healthy, right? Do I need you to sit down so I can stand up? Like, or can we both stand together, moving us out of scarcity consciousness? Because that's where racism starts. In fear, power of other. How can I eat? How can I have more? How can I dominate? That's the lower register of the humanity, right? That's very primal, is not evolved at all. And we are still carrying on those legacies, but we are the ones to come in and disrupt that. We are the disruptors of light.
We are the disruptors.
We are, absolutely.
Where do you think that power over comes from? Is it patriarchal programming?
I think it is fear consciousness. I think it's lack. I think when people feel small or threatened, they try to dominate you. And that is what happens when all you think you are is your body and your intellect, right? When you're not in your heart, you don't feel the level of abundance and oneness. Like, the heart is a different level of intelligence. There's no competition, right? You can never be me. You can't take from me. Like, I'll forever be giving. Even if you do literally take from me, I'll still be restored. That is the truth. Right. And so when people understanding that, but the primal mind, that's where it comes from. The primal mind. And I've had friends tell me, I'll say things and I say, well, that's just very normal. It's very primal for us to want to hunt and, you know, survive. And I said, well, maybe we should move out of the primal mind and move into the transcendent mind, that I don't necessarily need to kill you to eat. Maybe I can think of something else, right? Maybe I am that brilliant. Maybe things aren't as dire as they're looking. Can I talk about, there has to be innovation, the seed of innovation when you face challenges. It doesn't mean always go to the most gross or dire thing to dominate and hurt other people to get what you want. You know, you can even ask. Yeah, you know, there's more to it, but when in the fear state, I believe the primal mind has taken over the human, and it becomes cold, and it becomes about survival, and then dominating and becoming fat, and it just gets really distorted, right? But I think about people who haven't had a lot of resources. Even when I was like in Mexico, I also seen community. I also see people sharing. Like, there's different ways to do things. It doesn't always have to be blood, guts, and war, right? There's other ways, and we're here to like educate and innovate and be the benevolent leaders that actually bring in justice in a way that is honoring all. It is possible. Because I've learned that without knowing who I truly am, it doesn't matter if I have soup. It doesn't matter if I just have these basic needs, right? I'm suffering life. It is the most, anybody who has had a heartbreak, someone died, whatever your greatest darkness has been, not having tools to move through that, to have the history that I even have as a Black woman in this earth, not knowing who I am, I can only imagine the level of suffering. I would not be sitting here talking to you, I'm not here because I went to a university. I'm here because I healed, right? And so knowing who you are is a basic need. It will help you take that soup, take that government assistance, and make a plan. Right, because I've been there. I've had a food stamp card and a plan, right? And waking up with no one telling me who I am. No TVs in the house, all of them gone, right? Running every day, having a garden, sleeping, journaling, making plans. That's a free mind. That's a liberated spirit. And I am somebody of that avatar. Like that's not where the money is going. They're not pushing me in front of you. They're going to push another avatar of people that look like me. So you say, that's who we are and that's what we do. Right. But yeah, the basic need starts in your consciousness. Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah. The fire. Yeah.
Why is it that in today's culture, we're always encouraged to go outside of ourselves to create impact rather than looking at ourselves first?
Money? Because people are making money off of that. Capitalism again, huh? Everything is outwardly, because our currency, our attention is our greatest currency, right? Especially now that we're in this digital social media age. And when you think about that, right, as long as I'm vying for your attention so that I become wealthier, right? And so the whole idea is that you need everything that's outside of you, because it's not very profitable to me that you find that within yourself, right? So I keep you distracted. I keep you high on, sugars and processed foods, and you're numb and you're disconnected, and I'm giving you narratives, and you're looking outside, you're looking for the next distraction or the next person, and, like or do whatever, right? And so you have tuned out from you, who you truly are, your own power, all the fulfillment that's sitting right in there if you just get quiet enough and get all these outward fixes and narratives and other people's thoughts and desires and agendas for your life and your money and your time and your attention, and come home. A group of people that's tuned in is a powerful group of people.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
How do we learn to trust our intuition when there are so many opinions, experts, people on the outside telling us they know better? This was huge for me when I fought to deliver my babies how I wanted them in a system that wanted to strip me of my power. So how do we learn to trust ourselves?
Cultivating a deeper relationship with the self. So yeah, that happens within your own personal journey. It's interesting you say the how, because I'm just looking at just all the ways this world basically tells us that we're not the authority in our lives, right? It's the parents, it's the school, it's the professor, it's the president, right? It's the doctor. It's all these people outside of you that know better for you. And I believe we innately come in connected, like you see these children, right? I'm sure your children teach you a lot, right? And just who they are, and like reclaiming your own power. And that, again, takes silence. Like I have a course running right now with a group of amazing women, and I just keep saying, get silent. Take in your earphones at work, like boundary yourself, create sacred space so you can listen to you. I just happen to have always been that type of child. When a teacher give me a book and I have to do something, I would always say like, why? Or who wrote it? Or who said, right? And then I would have to go stand outside. But who knows, later I see. But I was always trusting my voice. And that made me unpopular a lot of time in a lot of spaces, right? Like someone is saying something and I'm like, I have a question. Nobody's questioning. And it makes you odd when you do. So when you get over needing to be liked, stay in the friend circles, stay in the family circle, and you really become dedicated to your own liberation and your own like expression in the world, all chains are off. And I've done that. I've been smaller because I'm scared that I'm going to be judged. I'm the only one to have a question. Everybody else don't. But then when I ask the question, everybody like, yeah, I have that question too. Right? So it's so important to listen to your own voice. Even now, like when the pandemic was happening or anytime something happens, everybody starts to, have their own opinions. But when I see people arguing facts, what they think are like data that they didn't vet, you weren't there, I can't be that passionate about anything that I didn't literally live or vet or write or see happen. I'll take a book, I'll take a guide, I'll take a teacher, God knows. But at the end of the day, it is my intuition. I remember, and this is a very small example of what I'm sharing. I remember I ordered an oat milk latte with no sugar, and they brought it and said, I tasted, I said, there's sugar in there. The girl said, no, it's not. I said, it's sugar. She said, it's not. Trust, the manager comes over. I was like, oh, I think it's whatever. They like, no, here's the box, it's not in there. I said, okay, well, I just don't want it. I know it's sugar in there. So I have the authority. They're confident. They believe it. And then somebody comes out like, oh, I gave her the wrong one. That one has sugar. But it was like a moment of like, am I the crazy one? Like, I know it's sugar in there. But they're like, no. So there was some information missing, right? Something else had happened. But I stood in that small, it's a small example, but it's kind of like with the doctors, like, as well as everybody else know. Not only, even now with the medical system, I'm always taking the information. I'll go home and research myself. At the end of the day, it needs to make sense to me and feel good within my body in order for me to be a yes. Not just because you told me to. All due respect, not just because you said so or because this book said so, especially history books. They help us, they guide us, but I don't know what's missing. So I will speak to it, but it can't be my conviction. I speak convictedly by what I have lived. I talk about transcending racism because it's what I live. It's what I know. And you can't take that from me, right? So good. Yeah.
So good.
And one more thing about trusting your own voice and your own intuition. I've always thought about how even in our society, women lay on their backs to have children with a doctor over them, when it's like very obvious that in order to birth something out your body, you should be standing up so that you can stoop, so that you can actually release something from the birth canal. And to lay on your back and push out, it really doesn't make sense, but it's something that we have collectively agreed to.
Yeah, and it came from actually like whiteness, and it came from, patriarchy, and it was invented in France.
Exactly.
This is the way now.
And I seen a story where a doctor, he dislodged the baby's head, like trying to get, and I was thinking if that mother could have stood up, if she could have been in tune with her child, right? There's so much in that piece of listening to yourself. And I share that to say how we have collectively agreed to that without questioning, like maybe you should stoop, maybe you should stand up. And how important it is for us to see where we do collectively agree to things and do not question things, because everybody is doing it. So even with white supremacy, like all these systems, where have we collectively agreed because no one wants to speak up or does or even is thinking about it, this is just the way things is. And as human beings, we're not here to live and this is just the way it is.
Totally. I mean, even when I gave birth, I was like, I don't need an IV. And they're like, you'll get dehydrated. I'm like, I could keep drinking. I have a little concoction of something that I've made that keeps me hydrated. And they're like, you need a robe. And I'm like, no, I don't want, I'm not sick. I'm birthing babies. I'm not sick. Like, I don't need your robe,
Yes.
And I want to use my body, and I don't want to lay on a bed, and I want to use gravity and all the things.
Yes.
But that's not the norm.
Yes.
And if you're not willing to challenge it, you'll never be able to kind of realign with your internal power.
Your internal power. And that is the key. When we speak about white supremacy, it is about stripping away your internal power, right? Everybody, they keep us arguing because most people feel pretty helpless, right? Very much in fear. There's no really internal tuning in. It's just these outside influences that is impacting us, and that's what we're arguing and going back and forth on. That's really powerful. Yeah, knowing yourself. Yeah.
What made you trust your voice at an early age?
So it's interesting because as a child, I felt really different, and I believe a lot differently. I feel like maybe a lot of children experience that, but my voice and who I was so much stronger than the cultural norms that were coming towards me. So I would choose isolation a lot. Like I would play for so long, and then I wanted to go away, and my sister would be upset. Like, why are you, we're in the middle of playing house. Like, what are you doing? And I just always needed like this time alone. And I realized now that I was receiving information, right? I didn't have the words for that then. And I often felt really weird, super sensitive, and those things were a bit condemned as a child. You're crying too much, or you're being too sensitive. I would hear that a lot. And so I was moving through this experience of not really feeling happy. I was 20 years old. I wasn't really, dating was okay, but it for some reason wasn't giving me the joy it was seeming to give my friends, right? I just was like, I kind of want more. And so I had like this deeper, just a lot of inquiry within me. And I remember that looking around me, I had enough wisdom to see that the way I was holding my energy was giving me some level of peace more than what I was seeing around me. So the isolation and pulling my energy and going outside the neighborhood and doing those things, I was starting to just feel better just being in my own energy. And so I trusted the safety I was creating for myself opposed to like just going out and doing what people say I should be doing or what the cultural norm is, right? So that was really powerful, but it's been a long journey in trusting my voice, being spiritual. And I grew up as a Christian in a Pentecostal church, like coming out as a spiritualist and, speaking about the universe and transcendence. That's not something my family or culture naturally like gravitated towards, which is why my community has been so predominantly white, right? So I was going where people were speaking like I'm already thinking, right? And so, but that has been a journey. I have hid myself for a long time to feel safe, but I loved my mind and my consciousness and the conversations that I was having with God. I just didn't, I was confident in that, but not confident, or didn't feel safe enough to share in the world. And now when I look back today, it really wasn't time. So the energy have shifted, and now there's an opening where people can really hear where I believe it was a bit ahead. But that's been a long and pretty painful journey because as a kid, you don't know. So I encourage children, if you're thinking different or 15 people are saying something and you just feel something, honor that, because that means you are on a specific path. And I believe some of us come in to pioneer and lead, and not in the, American, like, oh, you're just like this, like in a real way, because this is no small work. This is an honor. It's very humbling, right? And it's something I kind of resisted in a lot of ways. So, but really honor your voice and know that you will never be alone when you connect to yourself and to source. I think that's it. I think people comply to be liked and accepted. Like I would love to be loved by my family and my culture and you and my friends. It's also okay if I don't. Because I have this connection is the most important. My connection with source is everything. I am never alone. God is always with me, within me, and all around me. And I trust that. And that's who gets me. That's who gets me. Humans don't always get it. But I feel God saying, like, you are living a life where you feel aligned with who you are. And so you're winning. That's the win. It may not be perfect and people may not get that, but your heart is at ease. And that's all you can ask for. I want to share this. This came up. Like, you asked me something. I just all this information comes in. I've been listening to this very old gospel song that I grew up on. And again, like, I don't go to church. I'm not religious. However, that is my roots. And the song is by a famous gospel group called the Clark Sisters. And it said, "Centered in thy will." And she just says, I want to be centered in thy will. And that is all I want, to be in divine will, to be in the will of God in all that there is. That is what brings me the most joy and the most peace, and it feels most purposeful, and it makes this life worth living. May I be in his will. So even when I started speaking about social justice, God was very clear with me in saying, you stay connected to consciousness. You speak from a place of consciousness. You are not to drop down into Blackness and, gender and all this separation. You are a woman of consciousness. You speak from here, and you speak to all.
You speak about our shadow selves. What do you mean by that? Just so people understand what that is.
The shadow self. The aspects of our subconscious, like the unhealed aspects of ourselves, the parts of us that are in the shadow, because it is unknown. I won't say most likely. It is the unknown aspects of your consciousness, so your subconscious. And these things kind of rear their head when you're not even aware of it. Like, I could touch you the wrong way, and something can come up for you that is painful and dark or whatever it is, and you don't even really know that it's there. It's not in the light. It hasn't been known yet, right? Or there are things that maybe are in our personalities that are connected to a more unconscious aspect. Maybe I respond to things a certain way because something has, there's a trauma there, but it's below the surface. So it's unknown, right? Unknown is unconscious, and it's unconscious is dark shadow, right? Where in the light we know, and once we know it, we can actually start to heal it. We can love it, right? Yes. Love it is what transforms it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, my next question was going to be, how do we transform our shadows?
Yes, through
facing them
and bringing love to them, allowing them to be. I've been doing a lot of trauma work with bringing up the pieces of me that feel the most pain, things that's happened throughout my childhood, whatever that may be. Bringing love and allowing it to be first takes so much out of it, and I can look at it and then see where I've been operating, because this is how I had to operate, or how I thought I had to operate, right? And then I can start to move into different patterning and making shifts in how I respond and work with that energy. But bringing love to things is power. Accepting, like you said, facing it. I love facing things, even when it's uncomfortable. I'm like, I'm going to look at this. And as soon as I do, it shifts.
So true. It just releases its grip on you.
Your grip, yes. I had a dream once, and I don't know if this is something that a lot of people experience, like deja vu, but it was a dream about something chasing me, right? And I've heard people say they've had chasing dreams. And I remember in that dream, I turned around. I stopped and turned around. And whatever that thing that I felt so scared of, it disappeared. As soon as I stopped running, I was and I woke right up. I wrote this long post about it because it was so powerful that I was giving that energy, that running energy, the not wanting to see it, feeling vulnerable, thinking it can get me, right? That was making it a monster in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a beautiful. My daughter shared. She shared that in her dream she was being chased by something, and she was running away from something. And I just turned it into this little game, and I said, next time you turn around and you run towards it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's it's a type of metaphor in there. It's powerful. It's powerful.
It's what are you scared of? Let's go. Let's.
Yeah. You'll find that things aren't as scary as we think they are. That the scariness is the unknown. It's the fear of the unknown. I don't know how Mira will react if I say this. I don't know, will my husband leave? I don't know what the teacher may say. So just the fear of that. But once you move into it, it usually turns out that it's not what you thought it was going to be.
So how do we let go of that?
I don't know that you let go of it. I think you become courageous. I think you come to know who you are. You know, like, you're going to move through this too. You're not vulnerable. We're in a society that really makes us feel vulnerable. If you notice, there are things that start to come up through our collective that is so much happening that you start to feel fear just for life in general. Like, oh, these people, there's a sickness, a virus over here. This is happening over here. This is happening here. And there's always like this air of vulnerability, or I'm not safe, that I feel moves through the collective consciousness, right? And people act, you know, they're not as encouraged or courageous as a result. So coming to like take your energy out of these narratives and the media and all the conversations and everything, and always tuning back into you and source, is where your power and your courage comes from. Be courageous with your life, in life, right? Knowing who we are as powerful beings. That's what I want humanity to know. You are way more powerful than this world will ever let you know. Right?
Yeah.
Way more powerful. Yeah.
And stepping into that. I feel, you know, speaking of just the media and the outside world, it's like I feel there's a war on our consciousness.
Absolutely.
You know? So
Absolutely.
our job here is to kind of, you know, step into our power.
Yes.
And not let that war kind of consume us.
Let your consciousness be hijacked. I always share that with clients, right?
Do you ever get pushback from people when you share and talk about these things? Or are people usually pretty receptive to them?
People are, I've not had any resistance. Yeah.
Because you're coming from such a place in your heart, you know?
I think it's that, and these are my thoughts. This is my life. This is my voice. And what could you say? What can you say?
Yeah, too true.
You have no dominion in my life, right? So I'm not here arguing, again, data from people's books and other people's thoughts.
Yeah, you just share.
These are my thoughts. And if you resonate, you resonate. But there's nothing that you can say. You have no dominion over me. So, yeah.
What's the role of community in healing and raising consciousness?
Community is everything, right? It is the balm. It is the place where it all happens. I think it's so important to have community of people that are on the same wavelength, and those that are starting to come into, right? Like people, like I think about my community, like there's like sisters that we have so much in common with, but then there are people who aren't sure where they stand on things, but they're interested. And just having loving, safe spaces is what actually creates healing. Like even with racial injustice, I keep saying, even being home in Michigan, I'm like, I really want safe spaces for us to talk about racism. Because as an empath and a clairvoyant and clairaudient, it's so loud there. But where are we going to talk about that and start to dissolve it instead of letting it be that monster, that unseen monster that's just sitting in the coffee shops with us, right? It's just there. So I think community, having spaces where people can come in and be themselves and be welcomed and transparent, is really important. Yeah, it's needed. It's needed more now than ever. Like you need a place that you can come to where you don't feel weird. Right, you know, that you feel seen and accepted and loved.
Yeah, I always think like healing only happens together. You know, you can do all your personal work, but you always need to be, you know, we're mirrors to each other.
That's true. That's true.
So is my health your health, and your health my health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we're all connected, right? And those of us who are attuned to that, like there's people that are a little more sensitive, and those who are living lives that are picking up on the subtleties, right, that's happening in the world and around us. The other day, my mom said to me, I don't know, this was maybe like 4 days ago, I've been feeling like crying a lot lately. And I said, people are grieving right now. So yeah, we're here in Michigan, but we can feel that. And this isn't the first time we felt it. Maybe you thought it was you. Maybe you passed it off. Maybe you did something else to get rid of that emotion, but we can feel each other. So when we think it's them over there and it's not happening here in my home, it's absolutely affecting your field. Now, even when I came here to Portland, I felt the energy shift from where I was in Michigan, when I land in LA, when I land in Tulum, wherever I am, I can feel the consciousness, the health of the people. It actually impacts my field. It doesn't have to be to my detriment, but because I'm picking up on these subtleties as well as they are doing, that is also going to lift me, right? There's a heavy energy in the field when people are oppressed or sick or, disturbed. And if you move into, like if you go into an ashram, all of a sudden we're all going to start to be, we're going to feel more peaceful. So, and they're healthy if they're meditating, eating well, or whatever that is. So that environment and the health of those around us and others, more than just yourself, is absolutely impacting you. With all of the mental illness, and TikTok shows me a lot of, for some reason, young college-age kids creations, and just seeing where their minds are and some of their consciousness, which isn't really healthy, like that is in the field. When sometimes you get home from work and you're like, oh, it was a long day. Yeah, you had things happening, but you're also connected to the consciousness field of this entire collective. So we all have to take care of each other.
Yeah.
It is you taking care of you. You cannot get away from it. When you feel like the world is too much, it's because it is in your field. And to believe that it's just about you, that's what I just wrote about, me and mine and not yours, then it's because you just haven't understood that this is also a part of you. Just think if this world was all very healthy, how amazing would you feel right now?
Yeah.
There would be a lift. There would be a contribution to your field and to your life and to your mental health and your physical health and all of the things. So it's really powerful. Yes. There is no other. And I don't want to say, I don't like the cliches of how things sound. There really isn't. I am as healthy as you are. Like I used to think like, oh, well, I'm making these choices over here, and so this is my life. But I'm also receiving cues and imprints from what's being held in the collective field. So I always say personal transformation equals global transformation, right? A society is only as healthy as the consciousness of its people, period. There's no other way, right? The consciousness in the people must shift to create a shift at a global level that moves into real, tangible, new ways of being. It has to happen within the consciousness of the people. Even when I think about like the racial initiatives, I'm like, okay, we have guidelines now. There's initiatives here. But are the people changing? If the people are still in their own racial conditioning, that's not healing. They're still going to the gas station. Their thought forms are projecting out. And it's interesting because coming to Portland, I literally felt a shift. This morning at the hotel, and because I'm doing this work and knowing I'm coming to talk to you, I was blow drying my hair. And I said, I just realized I'm the only Black person in this hotel. I did not notice that. When I am in Michigan, I am very aware. And it's not because Michigan is bad. It's because these people are still holding a certain conditioning. There's been pain there. There's conversations. I don't know what's happening here in Portland, but however, I just didn't feel it within that. And I'm receiving these subtle cues where when I walk into a space in certain places in Detroit, because Detroit is all white. Now, I don't know if you know that, but that's a whole other conversation. But it's like there's things in the field that it's a very evident separation there, right? And that is because of the consciousness that's being held in that part of the world right now, right? And so, yeah, so it was about health and just moving into the broadness of how you what people are thinking, the consciousness that they are holding, it does impact you. And as a human being, I would like to have as much freedom. I'm going to own my own freedom, but it would feel good if more people can also be happy, have that vibration and create an environment that feels really loving. Yeah.
What you're saying makes me think that not only do we have to do our own inner work to kind of raise our consciousness up, but we also have to be aware that we need to basically be fighting for everyone's health, everyone's collective well-being, or else we'll never be well.
When you stand for one thing, moving into this consciousness of understanding, I don't have to be against to be for something. Right? That's also very primitive to me, right? Even with what's happening with the war in Palestine, like, do you stand with these groups? I stand for love, right? I stand for innovation, forward movement, stand for life, and to stand in this energy of let's free these people, let's start to move and heal oppression does not mean I'm against another, but I am against war. I'll let that go on record, right?
So am I. I'm anti-war. 100%.
Yes, for sure, right? And so, but I think we're still in the mind of if you say that you're with Black people or white people or Asian people, that must mean you're against another. And to me, it doesn't honor my full capacity of intelligence to think that I must choose one thing and I have to be against the other. I prefer not that, or this is where my focus is today, but I am not against. I will not be against anybody, right? There's no reason for that.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying before is we're reflections of each other. Absolutely. We're mirrors of each other.
Yeah. And you can love people and still call them into right relations. And then just in the language of where I'm from, you can check people you love. Sometimes you have to give them like, you're out of alignment here. This doesn't feel 100%. Good. I don't resonate with how you're moving right now. And it doesn't mean I don't love you or love your culture or love who you are.
Yeah, I always say that because growing up in Lebanese culture in Lebanon, I have so many friends that are, it's a multi-faith country, different faiths, different backgrounds, and I'm always like, you could be my best friend and I can love you and I could still disagree with you and we can still hash it out, but then we can hug and kiss and move on and still like be best friends.
Absolutely.
And I think we've lost that in many ways.
Yes.
How can we kind of speak our truth, let somebody on the other side hear it, and not have that mean I'm against you, I don't talk to you, I hate you, all that stuff,
Yeah, because it says something about us if everybody, only our friends or everybody around us thinks and eats and believes just like we do.
We're in our echo chambers, I think the work is to actually be in relationship with people who are different than us, so we can have these conversations, so we can raise ourselves up.
Even for myself, I've read the Quran, I've studied Hinduism, Buddhism, all of the things. And when you know who you are, it's easy to ingest and connect and honor how other people believe. And it's beautiful. Oh, I went to a bar mitzvah. It blew my mind. It was beautiful. The Torah, like, oh, wow, right? And so learning without having to be against. It's it's the small self. It's not necessary.
The higher self.
Yeah, there's the separation part. Like if, that I couldn't read the Quran or the Torah, like there's no reason why I can't honor and read these things without me wanting to practice or become, you know what I mean? Like I have honor and I also choose, I don't see it that way or I don't do that or whatever. And it's fine. And I love being educated because it allows me to be closer to people.
Yeah, of course.
Right? That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Instead of standing off, right? So,
what's the one thing we can all start doing today towards healing ourselves and our communities?
Taking our consciousness back, like reeling in our attention and being more intentional about where we lend it. That is coming out of, I don't want to use the word the matrix, but I really don't. You're like, well, why not? But bringing your energy back into yourself, having more solitude with the self, connecting with your own heart, your own values, your voice, your desires, your why for waking up every day. And if you don't have a why, then you really should move on this journey so that you don't suffer your life, right? That you actually start to see and live out your birthright as a human, which is freedom and liberation and joy, right? And to move through challenge with some level of empowerment and knowing and wisdom. That is all available to us. So coming and bringing your energy out of the out there, I need that to be perfect, accepted, loved, liked, beautiful, whatever it is, and coming into the self. So actually creating space for just you. That mind, I call it sacred wake up. And that first 2 hours of my day is sacred and it's mine. And I sit with myself in the journal. I do an array of different things, listening to 528 hertz music or what a classical music until I can find and I can feel when I click in and I remember the beauty of this life. I remember who I am beyond the emails and what may be waiting for me on the computer and in family. I can just find myself and find source and find that
Your
grounding.
center.
Yeah, so important.
Because the world just wants to knock us off our center.
And when you wake up and you haven't collected yourself and really centered yourself, and you go into that world, you're giving everybody around you a lesser version of yourself, and it's more likely that you'll feel more stress and challenge throughout your day. Yeah.
What's the role of joy in this deep soul and consciousness work? We often feel that it's all hard work and pain, but honestly, just finding like-minded sisters has been, for me, the ultimate joy on this path. So what is the role of joy?
I feel joy should be a high priority, right? And adults should give themselves permission to seek it, to cultivate it, to be childlike again, right? To really, and I think about like the healing journey, that is a part of it for me, is like letting things go. I tell myself that all the time. Stop being so serious. like even when I was in Mexico, in beautiful Mexico, I remember the people there, the natives kept saying to me, calm down. It's okay. I couldn't buy my groceries one day. My car wasn't working, whatever, the guy paid. And he was just like, I'll see you tomorrow. Like, calm down. Like, this is not, I mean, you got some papaya. It's not the end of the world. But just being so wound up in American culture and get it and not really, I don't know, the culture felt more laid back. And I was thinking about, after that, I walked home. I was like, there's joy. I feel like a 4-year-old. Like, I got the groceries here. I owe the stranger guy that's going to be a new friend. I'll go give him the money tomorrow. And there was just like allowing myself to have that joy. I feel the most expansive, right? And I feel like that's the most time we are radiating God's energy, which God is all things, but that joy is infectious and healing. So seeking that and allowing yourself to play is paramount. Yeah, it's infectious. Oh, we need that so bad.
Yeah, we do. We
Yeah.
do. Your story reminded me of a longtime teacher that lives in Mexico, and she often compares Mexico's nervous system to America's nervous system. And she says that Mexico's nervous system is very grounded, and America's nervous system is completely dysregulated. But, just also learning from other cultures, learning from other ways of being, it doesn't always have to be so ungrounded, And how do we find the grounding in ourselves, too?
Yes. And it's interesting. I think the word that they kept saying was tranquilo, relax, tranquilo. And I'm like, I gotta build an empire. What do you mean?
This is what we've been sold. Right? That is what we've been sold.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking about, when you think about, the Mexican people too, like that laid back energy. And I asked my one friend, Fernando, I was like, yeah, just so laid back. And he was like, it's one life, you have family, it's fine. Everything is fine. It's just fine. Yeah. And and he's happy and smiling. And I think in American culture, it is that quest to accomplish, and definitely that wound up nature that is so prevalent in our society that if you don't watch it, you become disconnected from them simple joys, right? Like Jesus said, you cannot live on bread alone. So what else are you living on? Like connection, joy, consciousness, hugs, moments, experiences, instead of achieving and always capitalizing on things.
Yeah. I think just capitalism makes it that our values in our productivity.
It's in our productivity, what we produce. Yeah, it's not true. Yeah. Yeah, and people suffer that, right? Those who are still looking for who they are and how they show up in the world don't always feel worthy, right? Because they haven't produced a thing or done a thing, and they're just as worthy. Like your presence, your waking up this morning is the gift,
It's valuable, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You say the goal is to see a person of color and see yourself in that person. Is that how we know we are healing?
That's how you know you have, yes, healed and transcended racial conditioning. When you see another human being and you see yourself, or you just see a being, allowing your biases to move away. And we all have bias. I do an active work of dropping my bias when I'm connecting with people, and it's so profound, which means I will say literally anything to anyone without equating your age, your race, and your gender. And people can feel that. Like sometimes I remember I was speaking with an older Russian man in Playa Vista in LA. We went to the theater. They would film opera there. So opera was happening. They were like showing it to us in the theater. And I ended up talking to this older man. And I remember bringing up a Jay-Z quote, because I often do that. I did not ask him. I'm not asking you if you know Jay-Z. I'm not asking him. This is how I speak. This is what is in my consciousness. I don't know if you know rap music, this person, but you either ask me who I'm speaking about, who that is. But for me to say, because you have white skin or because you're over 40 years old or whatever he was, and not share my full self is a bias. And so if I'm connecting, and we were talking about his, he was widowed and his wife, and like, he was just saying so much. And I just kept him close as if I would talk to a sister, a Black woman, you know what I mean? Like I kept the same energy, right? And to me, that is real inclusion. That is real inclusion, right? And I always share too, like when you see, talking to like white women, this was a group that I was leading and like facilitating this work. And I was telling her, if you see like a young Black girl, like with red hair and she's whatever, doing something you don't do, going to a concert, whatever, know that that is you, right? Know that her desires, and she's a mother like you are, or whatever. You have so much in common with that human being. How do you not? Why do we think we don't have things in common? Because we live in different cultures or we appear differently. I've never met one human being that I did not have something in common with. Ever. Of all like spectrums. It's like you could talk about so much because we have those core things in common. We want to be safe. We want to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, we want our families to feel good. We want a harmonious world. It's not that deep. Everyone is just like you. And just having different experiences. And we are from different cultures, which I find very fascinating. There are things to learn, and it's things I'm curious about. And you can speak to those things when that bias isn't coming up within you. You know, like there's even, sometimes I'll meet white people and you can tell that I call them broken open. They're like just open wide, you know, they don't care what they say. They're just like, they usually have traveled the world. Like there's a level of openness, and a lot of bias has moved, and they're moving in and meeting people. And I think that also goes for all different all cultures. Like, there's Black people and there's people that just happen to be Black, meaning these are the people that's still running under the programs. The ones who would be white people, be Black people, Asian people, like you're under, and then the ones that just happen to be are individuals.
And have moved beyond
Have
that.
moved beyond that. They're more in their individuated state of being, right? And so and we need more of that individualism, right? That real cracked open who is Mira, who is Curtrice, right? Individually like that. And, how can we be interdependent to our communities in that way? Yeah.
Is there any other things that you feel called to share that you have not shared?
I feel like we really gather all of the things that I feel really passionate about. I love that courage came up, that empowerment, knowing thyself, self-actualization, knowing who you are. Yeah, I think those are the keys, and those are the keys to healing. That's where we start. It's coming into that level of empowerment. And on our journey towards oneness consciousness, that's where we're going. And we don't get there by ignoring things. We're way too powerful to ignore and get over things. We're not getting over anything. We're moving through. We're healers, all of us. We all come from the same creator, right? So we have this power to transform, transmute, and heal. And may we honor and call that in and accept that invitation. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah. And honor. Thank you. Thank you, Mira. Thank you, sister.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. You can connect with Into Healing on TikTok and Instagram for more inspirational and behind-the-scenes content, and visit our website, intohealing.com, for transcripts and other goodies. Into Healing is made possible thanks to people like you. Contributions made through Venmo @IntoHealing or through our website, intohealing.com, help us bring you more inspiring episodes. This has been Into Healing with Mira Adura. Thank you for joining us.